Okay, I think we're live, and my guess is Honey isn't able to get a good connectivity, so I'm just going to go ahead and start the event. So, welcome everybody. Welcome, filmmakers. My name is Vaishnavi. I am a filmmaker from India, and I will be moderating this little Q&A panel discussion for today and tomorrow. Welcome also to everybody who's watching the live stream from around the world. For me personally, Women International Film Festival is very close to my heart because Madiha is a very, very good friend of mine, and we forever dreamt about doing this kind of thing together from a same place. But given the circumstances, it has always been very difficult. But there is always a little piece of me during the film festival, and I guess this year, this is how I'm being part of the event. So welcome everybody. I would just like to quickly, for the benefit of the audience, quickly introduce all of you, the panelists. Like I said, I'm Vaishnavi. I will be moderating, and I'm a feminist filmmaker from the south of India. And we have, please correct me later on if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I will make sure that I pronounce it right later on. But for our panelists today, we have J. Sarah Davidson, who directed The Lady Edison. We have Boyka Boniva and Melina Calfanti, both of whom directed The Myth of the Wandering Womb. And we have Anya Raza and Aisha Linnea, who co-directed How She Moves. Thank you once again, everybody. So I'm just going to go right in. So to start off, I would just like to have you briefly introduce your protagonists, and how did you first come about these characters? Perhaps we can go in order. Perhaps we can start with Jay, if that's okay. You've got to unmute yourself. You've got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, it's very early in America. Hi. My protagonist is a real person. Her name is Margaret Knight, and she is one of the most successful early inventors in American history and created the first patent. And my film is about how her patent was stolen by a man and how she had to risk everything to go to trial and prove that he stole it so she could have it back. And then she ended up being one of the most prolific inventors of American history, but she is almost totally unknown. I mean, she has some info in the Smithsonian, but my film is probably the most comprehensive movie about her, and it's just a short film. So I think it speaks later what we're going to discuss of how women are kind of overshadowed even in American history.
Of course. I love the film personally, by the way. And you had also cast pretty well, and all the characters in the film sort of took us back to that period in time, it felt like. So kudos to that. Could we now have Boyka and Melina talk about their characters, and how did you identify amazing women, all these amazing women that were in your film, talking about the various aspects of being a mom, being pregnant, and all other different aspects of motherhood. Could you talk a little bit about that?
If I may, Boyka?
Yes.
I can start. Hello, thank you for having us today. So our film, The Myth of the Wandering Womb, is about a group of mothers in modern-day Athens, where we live and work, that come together in order to support each other through the various struggles that modern motherhood is about. We found the protagonists, they were already there. Boyka is one of them. So Boyka at the same time contributed to the creation of the film, but was also starring in it. So our film was very much about her own experience of being a mother, but how this corresponds with the other people she meets on a daily basis. The film is centered upon a class of Tai Chi that is designed for mothers so that they can go with the children when they cannot find someone to take care of them, so they can have their own activities and at the same time have the possibility to take care of their children. And just by doing the film, making interviews in the cafes in Athens, other women started to come to us and they overheard our conversations and
Yeah.
wanted to share their own ideas and experiences. So this was something we couldn't even predict, and it was great when it happened. That just people joined in our conversations and wanted to share their own ideas about this topic.
Yes, yes. I think these women that joined randomly and had something to say ended up being the
Yes,
most interesting conversation also.
yes,
Those that were just listening to what you were doing and then suddenly they had something to share, and they also ended up being medical professionals, isn't that right?
yes,
Yes. So
exactly.
that was pretty amazing. So I'd like to move to Anya and Aisha, whose film How She Moves we just finished watching, the last film for today. Could you talk about your protagonist? How did you stumble upon her? How was your experience working with her?
Thank you so much for screening us. We're so honored to be part of this festival and clearly amongst so many incredible filmmakers. So my story starts a little bit before. I was actually a student with Mrs. Mattel when I was 8 years old. And it was only for a 6-month period, but that 6-month period did a lot for my self-confidence and for my fellow students as well. And it was probably the first time we started exploring our bodies in that kind of philosophical manner. So that was the first time I encountered her, and we fast forward 2 decades, and we find out that she is having her final performance with her students. And it was a moment that, despite me having very little experience with filmmaking, I knew that it had to be captured. And so I reached out to Aisha, and we're both from Islamabad, and I was like, this has to happen. This is a very important story that only female filmmakers can tell because it's such a private space, it's such a delicate space. And she joined me, and here we are.
That's amazing. You'll be very interested to know I'm from the same city she is from. I'm in Madras right now when I'm speaking with you. So this is where she had started dancing, etc. So it's pretty amazing to be part of that history as well. So this is great. This is wonderful. I'm always fascinated by how women handle female characters. So it has been one of my dream come true to have like a room full of women to talk about female protagonists in itself. So this has been great. I would like to go back to Jay, and I would like to ask you, Jay, about the premiums that's usually associated with women professionals in general. We talk about I don't know, a female cricketer could be like the next Sachin Tendulkar in my country, for example, or there's always this female version of a male superstar or a female version of a male medical professional and things like that. What do you think about all these premiums that are associated with women that assume the male as the default?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I actually had to play into that with my movie. It's called The Lady Edison and not the Margaret Knight story. And at a certain point, when you're making this film, you want people to watch it. And she was nicknamed this in history. So it becomes this intrigue for people. But I teach at the University of Mississippi, and they gave me a grant, and the gender studies department gave me a grant, and I promised in the grant that I would call whatever feature script it would be not Lady Edison, to get away from that problem. But you make certain compromises as you go through it. And when I chose the Lady Edison, it wasn't the people who gave me the first amount told me I had to. It was more my producer saying, this is a catchy, and was a woman, this is a catchy title and people can resonate with it. What else are you going to call her? The bag maker, someone who makes bags. Like, this is a short film, So I think going forward in the type of activism, I'm kind of learning that you have to just live in the gray. Like, I'm not a purist in terms of feminist theology. I'm making a story about a woman, and the best way to watch this movie is for her to be compared to a man. But I'm not going to keep that tradition. I'm going to change that tradition. But if that helps us get a feature film of her, I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to be like, okay.
Sure, of course. The reason why you had called it Lady Edison is why I had, been fascinated to want to ask you about this. And I also understand that, sometimes it's important that we register that we are women, Sometimes it's important that we have a female-only space, a women-only film festival. Those are premiums that we should be having because that's celebrating our achievements and celebrating our work. But, like you explained, sometimes you've got to sort of pick our battles and try and get the message out rather than think about how well to describe it and lose the chance of people maybe watching it at a later stage.
I mean, she has no story about her outside of a few podcasts and some children's books. So it was a wild privilege to be the first person to make a work about a wildly powerful person. Like, it's almost ridiculous that I'm the first person to do that.
Yes. Yes. How come nobody ever has thought about it if she has an exhibit in the Smithsonian?
I mean, I think there are a lot of people in American history, not just women, but people of color, a lot of really amazing African-American inventors who have been overlooked. And there are probably white male inventors who've been overlooked. I mean, we take for granted all the things that brought us to the modern world. But like, invention is one of those things where only a few white men get a movie about them and everyone else is left out. And I think that's changing slowly. But I hope this movie is a part of the change in a larger way.
Sure, of course. And I hope the same too. I'm going to go back to Goika and Melina now. In the film, Myth of the Wandering Wombs, what do you think about a community that offers free advice to mothers? Like, everybody just got free advice for mothers. It doesn't matter what their age is, whether they are male, but everybody's got something to offer to women who, if they see that they are visibly pregnant. And it also places a huge amount of pressure for them to get back in shape. If you're a mother, you are expected to go back to how you were maybe in college almost immediately. If you put on weight, there's all kinds of talks about that. Basically, there is no winning this game at all. So I'm sure the women that talked about all these experiences in the film perhaps have felt it too. So I was wondering if you can talk about, while on the one hand they're going for Tai Chi, which is supposed to, make them physically better, maybe tone them or whatever, not that it is necessary. But at the same time, they are getting a position for going for these courses to make themselves better. You understand what I'm saying? Like, on the one hand, you criticize a woman for being however she's being, and at the same time, you stop her from going to Tai Chi. Could you comment about that, please?
So, the story in the movie is truly real. It's a documentary with a strong autobiographic element. But we wanted to make a story, to make a movie about all the moms and the way they have to face reality every day in our city. You said a community, but in fact, this is the society we are functioning. We are living and working, as Melina said. So it's not something that you can avoid and you can change. It's something that you have to face, and that's why the movie is there. So it was exactly an effort to raise this paradox, to voice out this paradox, and to say, well, I have been a mom for a few years now, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. How am I supposed to do this and that at the same time, which is not possible, exactly, because raising the children in the whole world, but also in Europe very strongly, in a traditional community as is the Greek one, society as is the Greek one, is mainly the role of the mothers. Of course, there are exceptions. Of course, there are different models, but still, the moms are those who are responsible. And at the same time, even though they are responsible, they have been responsible for all the years, they are not good enough. So they are subject to being advised all the time, which, of course, if you just stay and accept, it brings a big paradox to your head, and you really don't know where to go. So a place to go is the Tai Chi class, or an exercise, an activity like the movie making, just to share, to voice ideas, problems, problematic, and to see if there is an answer to this. And I here have a small example to this. So when I go out with my kids, yes, it's very, very typical. It happens very often to receive advice. How to dress them, how to talk to them, not to shout too much, not to do this, not to do that. And when their father goes out with them, although he has apparently less experience in this because just of the time spent, because of the maternity leave and so on, then he never accepts any kind of critique rather than, oh, an admiration. Look, what he's doing. So again, this paradox, this double standards, has nothing. It's very difficult to solve by yourself. So that's why we come together. We make a movie. We do a Tai Chi class and continue searching for the answer because I still don't have it.
Yeah, of course. I don't think we will ever have it in our lifetime about how men get away with the things that they do. There is also this part in the film where men go for their classes and how they don't want the children to come along with them because they are creating nuisance or creating disturbance. How have all of you managed to have children in the room and do something as slow and meticulous as Tai Chi? How is that even possible?
It's another skill you don't know you have. You realize you have it once you are into the situation. It's just the skill that you, how to say, you do Tai Chi with the one ear and with the other ear and eye you take care so that the children are playing and are not fighting, for example. It's exactly this skills development that you never knew you will be called to do, but then you know you have it once you have to do it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And holding them right here and then performing is pretty good demonstration of how women can multitask. I'd like to now go to Anya and Aisha, and I want to ask, what do you think about the portrayal of older women in general? You know, in our cinema, in advertisements, and everything. I mean, I have been an actor, and I think when I touched sometime around 25, the only scripts that I received were scripts of a woman who is nothing, who there is no other categorization but mother. You know, at 25, you're being asked to play a mother, and it's okay to play a mother, but that's not the problem. But the problem is there is no other description of that woman. She's a mother, and that's about it. And you're supposed to sort of assume all the other stereotypical notions about the mother character. I was wondering, you know, you chose a protagonist who's like this wildly ambitious woman at the age of, 70, close to 70, right? Or was it 80? That's extremely ambitious of her to, you know, at that age to want to perform, not just teach and be in the background. She wants to perform. She didn't shy away from the attention that she gets, which in our society, people will be, you know, condemned for it. Like, how dare you? Why does she want to perform in front of all these people? What do you think about, portraying older women wanting to have ambitions and aspirations? No, we're not able to hear Aisha very well, actually. Anya, would you like to take that?
Yes,
Sorry,
I'm not sure what's happening with Aisha's mic. Well, Mrs. Mehta didn't lean into the attention by choice. I think she just ended up having that attention by virtue of the profession that she chose and the dreams that she had. And I know that Aisha had a lot to say about this. So Aisha, if your microphone works, then please step in. But the fact is that in general, we are diminished to certain roles because, and this leans into a number of other topics as well, but basically who is the person that is signing off on these films, who's broadcasting these films, who's financing these films, who's giving the go-ahead. And this is a really big problem because people make assumptions about female characters and what females want to watch and what kind of stories females want to see and be a part of. And this trivialization is one of the most frustrating aspects of being a female filmmakers, because the breadth and depth of our stories just isn't taken seriously. So in the case of Mrs. Mitha, despite having this incredible story and incredible background, she's a legend, she's a hero, she's somebody who needs to be celebrated in every school. When we were pitching this in Pakistan, it was, I'll tell you a short story. I was a group of people that I was pitching it to, all men. I was showing the video, a short reel that we had of the film. And afterwards, they said, oh, but our platform has enough female content. We have all these Turkish dramas. And that was their way of saying, oh, okay, we're not interested in this film. And it kind of made me chuckle, because that's one genre and one type of form of entertainment. And to limit film to a form of escapist entertainment and not realizing the power it has on building awareness and building community in society, especially in bringing in misunderstood or incomplete references, such as the stories that we have about women, that's the problem. We're not doing that. We're not giving a space for that. We're not recognizing the need for that. And that when that happened for us, it was a bit of an eye-opener, because we realized, oh, okay, we need to show them that this is interesting. We need to prove to them that there is breadth and depth to these characters, and that they may not see it, but they too will be swept away by Mrs. Mitha's spirit. So it's just about proving them wrong, I think, as well.
Did that happen? Were you able to sort of elicit a sort of response that you hoped for after you finished the film? Were you able to revisit with all these people? How has was there a difference in the way they looked at this subject after it was made?
Today is the second day we're screening in Pakistan, so I think that conversation is still rolling. I think we hope that. But I think the larger point is that she's so incredible, and the way that she's inspired so many people around her is groundbreaking. But there are so many people like this in Pakistan who are just breaking waves, and we're just choosing not to see those characters because we've decided they are not interesting. And I'm sure that, because every time I speak to people, they're saying, oh, we had no idea this legend existed in Pakistan. We had no idea that she'd been teaching for 60 years. Why? Why don't we know this? There's some clear failures here. And this is where How She Moves can only step in and push it so far. But the point is that we just need to scratch the surface. And we have so many inspiring women of all ages who can really rock the boat, and it's necessary.
Yes, of course it is. Taking from what, Anya, you said, I want to go back to Jay and ask you, who do you think are the consumers of films with female protagonists? Is it just us? Is it just us who's supporting these projects and watching these because we want to watch them, and because we want to encourage the women that are making it, and because most of the time we end up making films with a female protagonist because that's closer to our heart? And what do you think about who the consumers are? Do you think about who the consumers should be at all in the beginning?
Well, I mean, the people who funded my movie were a bunch of white dudes in California who just asked the applicants for the grant to make historical pieces that had to do with innovation. So the part about her being a woman or not being a woman didn't really factor into why we made a movie about her. I think I could relate to her deeply because even though things in America are very good for women, it's not like we never experience misogyny in the workplace. Of course we do. so I could relate to her struggling when she's insecure, right? I picked a person who wasn't on top of her game. I picked a person where she could be great or she could be nothing. And I felt like I could connect to that. And then what was standing in her way were shitty men. And I definitely have had experiences like that. So I don't think that I don't see the film as just for women. It's always nice to participate in women-driven festivals, and it's a huge honor for me personally to be in a film festival in Pakistan. That's amazing. But I see the concept of the film isn't that I don't think men will like the film. It's more just it plants a seed that, oh yeah, like we really don't think about women in history that much. And
Yes.
we should start thinking about women in history. And I think a lot of white men, even when they treat women very well, they just still forget that women are still largely oppressed around the world, and also like we're historically oppressed. I think they like forget that reality. And I think the only way to help that their understanding of that is to make work.
Yes, yes. And sometimes we do make films with female protagonists is for them to watch and know that such people exist, isn't it? Yes.
But
Sorry.
men were my biggest supporters. That's what I want to say. So I need to say that because even though I had so many women on my crew, the producers who gave me the money were men. So
That's good. That's good. I should hope that a lot of male producers take some sort of clue from these men and carry on producing films with female protagonists and are going to be made by women. I want to ask the same question to Boyka and Melina. What do you think? Who do you think are our consumers really? Because motherhood is an exclusive female affair, is an exclusive female emotion. And even though in a film like this, we complain about how there is a societal participation in motherhood, even though she's the one that's conceiving the child. There's a societal participation, both good and bad. But when we make a film that clearly says wandering womb, I wonder how many men will go look for it and go, oh, I'm interested in watching this film. When, say, for example, there is some action superhero or something to call on a stereotype. What do you think? Who are our consumers?
Well, I think that it would be ideal if men were willing to watch such films, but probably they would be a bit insulted or be a bit defensive to watch a film that clearly outlines some problems about regarding the experiences of women as mothers. It is true that in our first projections, the audience was mixed because as a short film, it was in a program with other films that were not exclusively about women. But the ones who mostly came to us and afterwards to express their thoughts or to give us their congratulations, they were primarily women, as you could expect. However, we created this film in the context of a festival about intersectionality, and we tried to put it in dialogue with other films about other kinds of oppression in order to outline that maybe this specific topic is exclusive to women, but it has similarities with other topics, other struggles that many people can relate to. And we hope that with this action, with this choice that we make, we invite more people to see and empathize with the film.
Yes. And in the film, there is this part where you explain why you named your film this way. There is a mythical notion that somehow everything that has got to do with a woman that's gone bad has always been focused on her uterus, and somehow it's wandering through her body and causing all kinds of other distress. When certain things like this are so absurd and yet believed for centuries, how has the response been with men when I'm sure that's perhaps the first time they've ever heard of something like this? Were there any unique interactions that you had with men when they watch a very exclusively female film?
Boyka, what do you think? I cannot think of a specific response to that.
Well, yeah, I have, how to say, it's a little bit more optimistic because everything Melina said is true, but as modern feminism is not to be is not only for women, is not to be consumed only by women. The same way feminist movies are not to be consumed only by women. So yeah, it's true. It clearly has a critical point of view towards the situation, but it is also a good starting point for thinking and probably for changing some attitudes. So it's after almost no, it's not 1 year, but anyway, after this period of screening this movie among smaller circles of friends or some other groups, it has, so the general reaction is, wow, very interesting, I've never thought of this. We saw this with my husband, let's say. It was very nice. It talked more to me. And when the men discuss about this, they also say, okay, it was interesting, we enjoyed it, but it was not so emotional for me. It was not, it didn't touch me that much. So okay, there is a long way, but probably we are in the beginning. We are somewhere in the right, hopefully somewhere in the right direction.
Right, I'm sure. And I mean, I think this question is also for all of you, and I think we can start with Jay. I want to know if we should be concerned about who our consumers should be at all, or should we just go with our heart and make the films, make the stories that we want to say, or cast the kind of people that we want to cast, center it on female, and all those decisions that we make. Should we have a forethought about how it is going to be consumed, or who our consumers are going to be at all?
I mean, I think every film ever needs to think about their audience, whether you're making a horror movie or a drama. So I can't speak for any woman on this call. I didn't think about male or female in terms of audience for my film, because the men who gave me the money were so supportive, so it didn't really factor into my thoughts. They had a grant to make a historical figure, and I submitted that, and they accepted it. But I do think that's a valid question. For me, I tend to like to make dramas, so I understand people who like comedies will not like my movies, but I don't my hope is there's a human essence to every character that I write, that I have found that people are always surprised when they watch my films, whether it's this film or another film, that they connect to the character. And I think good storytelling is about human connection, where you see yourself in these characters, even if they aren't like you demographically. And I think that's what actually changes people, is you generate empathy and they connect to that empathy. And but that's so vague, and I don't know if that's helpful.
No, actually, there is no right or wrong answer to this question at all. I wonder if it's just like a thought experiment, and want to know what all of you think. I mean, in Jay's case, Boyka and Melina, in Jay's case, hers was a fiction film. So it's a historic event. So she had certain parameters within which she had to work, because she had to recreate something that had happened in the past. But with both of you, your film is a very organic, sort of free-flowing sort of a film, and I think it was put together mostly during the editing, rather than you thinking who to film, what are they going to say, or anything like that. For your upcoming films, or even this film, did you worry about who's going to watch it, how well the film is going to be received, or anything like that? And for your future films, do you think it is our responsibility at all to think about who the consumers will be?
I think for me personally, this is not the first thing to think about. The first thing I want to think about is what stories we want to tell. And then if the stories make sense, we will find someone that wants to listen to them. And this is what happened organically also by the process of filming, but also in the way that the projections of the film came up, that we found places and audiences to show this film to that we didn't know they existed. So I for me, it's not a priority, but also this film for us, I think what changes is that it's not a professional film, and we didn't expect to make our living out of it. So we we do this with this kind of privilege, that we did it because we wanted to and not in order to survive from it. So I cannot say that no one should care about who watches the films. This is my privilege to say that.
Yes, of course. I mean, we got Aisha back now, and it seems like the picture is clear. Aisha, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now, yes. So I just want to quickly come to you and Anya, and this is the question that I've been talking to everybody about. When we make films that are centric to female stories or female protagonists and things like that, is it our responsibility to think about our consumers? Who's going to watch it? Will there be a reception for it? Will there be a good market for a film with a female protagonist? Is it our burden to think about it at all? Oh no, we may have lost her again. Oh, we had him for like seconds, a few seconds, and so. Would you like to take it, Anya?
Yeah, I feel bad stepping in.
Me too.
Yeah, I miss you, Aisha. There are lots of ways of looking at this. What Melina just said really spoke to me. We shouldn't start with this, this is what the audience wants to see, and work backwards from that. We know that model exists in the world. That's a money-making model. And frankly, it's lacking empathy in a lot of ways. It has these generic algorithms of stories that are successful, people will connect to. The sound is going to be at the right moments, the heartstrings are pulled, and there we go, we've made our million. But if we want to think about it from a money perspective, if we are living amongst so many stories that are not being told, and if we're just looking visually, our market is saturated with stories that have been told. And if we're just looking at demand and supply, it's very evident that there are so many stories that can still be made, make money, generate interest, build community. All of this is possible, but where does it start from? It starts from the top. If the people who are financing the films, the people who are broadcasting the films, the people who are agreeing and supporting the films, like Jay said, she had male producers or donors. All of these people are part of this chain link of stretching what it means to be a woman, stretching what it means to be a part of this society. And I wouldn't even say just woman, just I would say any citizen would feel ownership if they see themselves reflected back. So it's actually frustrating from just a return on investment perspective, how so many donors are just blind and they're playing it safe. If we just see the regurgitation of all of these films, we've seen the audiences know the stories, they know the characters, and yet we keep leaning into it because it's safe. We're guaranteed to be able to make this amount of money. And so why is it a risk investing in films about females or made by females? It's just because men are uncomfortable because they don't know enough about these topics. So they can't come in saying, hey, you should be doing it like this, or you should be leading the story this way. This I find amusing because like Melina said, you don't work with this in mind. You don't go, okay, these are our roadblocks. You just create the opportunities for yourself. And believe me, in our case, with How She Moves, it was a question of blood, sweat, and tears to make ourselves heard and seen and say, this is why this film is important. And when people told us, but it's okay, we have Turkish dramas, or the plenty other examples that I have, I said, all right, well, you'll see. And that's the only way you can do it, because we clearly have these communities, even in this circle, Jay, Melina, Boyka, and Aisha, who we miss. We have this, it exists. And it's just a matter of time until we start funding each other. And it's just a matter of time until we start creating these communities, and it spreads wider. Now, one of the most interesting things that I've found is that especially the men who've watched this film are so surprised because they anticipated something emotional, they anticipated something maybe softer, but it didn't mean that it wouldn't connect with them, because who are we to say that men don't have those sides? It's disappointing that we're limiting men to action movies as well. So I think it's a general like we need to take a step back from anticipating and telling people and feeding them, spoon feeding them what we think they need, and allow people to have a little bit more agency. And the economics are there. The figures make sense. So it's only a matter of time until the investors start seeing this.
Of course. And the tide is changing, because we do have quite a bunch of successful female-led films, and for this year we've got 2 nominations. Historically, after 93 years, we've got 2 nominations in the Best Director category for the Academy. So that's all a good, what shall we say, precedent that's being laid out for people like us. Now, in closing, I would just like to run by you as to what your plans are next, and what kind of films are you planning to work on, and what kind of crew that you wish to bring together. Is it mostly female? Or how do you envision your next projects? We'll start with Jay. You're muted.
My next project is to turn The Lady Edison into a feature script. I'm also an executive producer on a documentary that's pretty female driven. But I like working with men and women. So I thought about this a lot because I want to be an advocate. But I have found I work with people I feel connected to, and that has been white men, that has been Latino men, that has been Black women. So I just want to be open to everyone in the creative process, because I think that's the healthiest way the future looks, in my opinion.
Right, of course. Boyka and Melina, would you like to talk about your next projects? And most importantly, are you going to be working together again?
Well, yes, we are still working together. We have not a specific project in order to create a film yet, but we're working also in the festival. We have created our own film festival that is taking place right now. Actually, this is the last weekend that is taking place. So we're focusing on that. But hopefully, there's always a thought that this project about motherhood in modern day Athens can continue.
That's wonderful.
We still have to find the energy for that.
Oh, energy is there. Look around you. you somehow find the energy. We've got to make these stories. It's very, very important. Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Would you like to comment, Anya?
Yeah. So I can't speak for Aisha. I know she's working on some very exciting things as well. But for me, I think what's next is finding more exciting and more subversive stories. I'm currently working on a number of short films. I write a little bit as well, so I'm working on that. Trying to explore things like public spaces, more freedom of expression, but trying to come in, nobody likes being told that, nobody likes being lectured, and especially not when they're trying to watch a film and a film is quote unquote escapist, and then you get lectured when you're on the screen. So that doesn't help. So I'm inspired by subversive elements, comedy, satire, and seeing how we can explore some of these more complex themes in a way that surprises the audience. I think this is a way to bypass some of the problems we were mentioning earlier in terms of the audience. So I'm very excited about that. Things move slowly, and it's let's see how things go. But I'm very excited just to be entering this space, because there are so many really, really exciting female filmmakers also in Pakistan, and they're all doing really exciting things. So I can already see us kind of building off each other's themes, even though we're not directly in communication or even working with each other. We're almost extending and stretching that space out for each other, so that we can talk about these topics, which is the best way and the only way sisterhood works. We don't need to be in communication to be in communication.
No, not at all. The energy is just so palpable. You can feel it when you're talking to a group of women in a room. It's reverberating. It's got some different kind of energy to it. And I have personally have had the most amazing experience working with women in my crew and in all the documentaries that I have made, and some of the most amazing things have come out, not just with the film as the output itself, but all the little things that you learn about being female in the process of making a film that is female centric. All those things are just sometimes bloody amazing, and some thinking about it gives me goosebumps. So yeah, on that note, I guess we have pretty much covered a lot of things that we wanted to talk about and come to the end of the panel. If there is anything else that you'd like to say in conclusion, feel free. Otherwise, we can just, with great support and wishing you great success, we can close this panel.
I just want to say thank you.
Yes.
It's a great honor for me to start my Saturday talking to Pakistani and Indian and filmmakers. This is wild to me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. This was super exciting. And I really hope that we have opportunities to connect like this in person soon, so we can really feel that sisterhood in person. Thank you.
Thank you also from me for accepting the movie and for inviting us today. It was really exciting.
It was just fabulous meeting all of you. Good luck with all the films that you're doing, all the brilliant minds that you're going to change in the future. Good luck to everybody. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.